It's another Percy Jackson YouTube video. Are we shocked? We shouldn't be. Hello demigods and welcome back to yet another Percy Jackson YouTube video. This one's actually a little bit different. We're not talking about a trailer in this video. This morning we got the official titles of all 8 episodes of season 1. I think this news has technically been out there for a while, but now it's officially posted by Percy Series. We know for a fact that these are the episode titles, so I'm going to talk about them, we're going to break them down, and we're going to basically decipher what's going to be in what episode. So for starters, let's just go over what the title of each episode is. Episode 1 is I accidentally vaporized my pre-algebra teacher. Episode 2 is I become supreme lord of the bathroom. Episode 3 is we visit the garden gnome emporium. Episode 4 is I plunge to my death. Episode 5, a god buys us cheeseburgers. Episode 6, we take a zebra to Vegas. Episode 7, we find out the truth, sort of. And episode 8, the last episode of the show, the prophecy comes true. Obviously, if you can't tell, the episode titles are also titles of chapters in the books. I'm going to put a little side by side of the episode titles and the chapters in The Lightning Thief so you can see sort of the difference in where each episode lands. First off, I just want to point out how awesome it is to have a show that is already so clearly sticking to the source material. It's even making the title of the episodes chapter titles. How great is that? But let's go ahead and start with figuring out what's going to be in what episode. The way that I did this, I kind of am just assuming that whatever is between each chapter is what's going to be in that episode. When we get towards the back half of the show, the chapters are like closer together, and it's a little bit harder to discern like where they're going to cut off the episode and start the next one, but bear with me, this is just a guessing game really. It's all we can do until the show comes out. So episode 1, I accidentally vaporized my pre-algebra teacher. This first episode of the show obviously is going to include all the scenes of Percy with Yancey Academy. It's going to include all the scenes of them at the Met. It's going to have the flashbacks of Sally with the young Percy Jackson at the Met. And we'll probably get like more flashbacks of young Percy. The other chapters that I think are going to get put into this episode are 3 old ladies knit the socks of death, Grover unexpectedly loses his pants, and my mother teaches me bullfighting. I think that'll be the cutoff for this episode. So we'll have the Met scenes, the Yancey Academy stuff, all of that in this episode. We're going to meet Gabe in this episode. Sally and Percy are going to go to their cabin that they go to in the book. Grover's going to meet them there. They're going to explain to Percy what he is and the fact that he's a demigod and all this stuff. And ultimately, I'm pretty sure episode 1 is going to end off with the Minotaur scene. And rest in peace, Sally Jackson. I think she's going to die in the first episode, which is going to suck. I wish we would get to see more of her, but it is what it is. Moving on to episode 2, I become Supreme Lord of the Bathroom. The other chapters that I think are going to be included in this episode are I play Pinnacle with a horse. I think that's how you pronounce it. Pinnacle, whatever. My dinner goes up in smoke. We capture a flag. And I am offered a quest. So episode 2, I think, is going to start with Percy waking up in Camp Half-Blood in the big house. We're going to see Chiron out of his wheelchair. We're going to meet Dionysus. We're going to meet Luke. We're going to meet Clarice. We're going to meet Annabeth. This is going to be a jam-packed episode, honestly. Pretty sure it's a 2-episode premiere, so we're getting both of these episodes on December 20th. But we'll have all the Camp Half-Blood stuff. Percy getting put in cabin 11 because he's not claimed yet. Percy figuring out if he's good at anything. Obviously, the title of the episode, I become Supreme Lord of the Bathroom. We're going to get the scene where Clarice tries to like shove Percy's head down a toilet and he explodes the bathroom. This episode is also going to include the capture the flag sequence, which I'm really excited to see. It's going to include Percy being claimed by Poseidon, which is super exciting. And so I think episode 2 could have one of 2 endings. I think episode 2 could either end with Percy being claimed by Poseidon and going to his cabin, or it can end with Percy getting offered his quest. If episode 2 does not end with Percy being offered his quest, that's going to be the very first thing that happens in episode 3, I think. But I think it might work better if episode 2 ends with him getting his quest and Annabeth and Grover plan to go with him. Because then episode 3, which is we visit the Garden Gnome Emporium, episode 3 can start out with the 3 of them leaving Camp Half-Blood. I feel like that's a good start to an episode instead of like they leave Camp Half-Blood like a third of the way through the episode. So I think episode 3 will start with them leaving Camp Half-Blood. The chapters that I think are included in episode 3 are going to be I Ruin a Perfectly Good Bus. Obviously, we visit the Garden Gnome Emporium, and we get advice from a poodle. So I think episode 3 will have the trio leaving Camp Half-Blood, getting on the bus. We'll see the whole Furies situation with the bus, and then they're going to end up at Auntie M's Emporium. They're going to meet Medusa, all that stuff. They're going to fight Medusa, and the episode's going to end with them killing Medusa and Percy shipping Medusa's head off to Mount Olympus. And no, there will be no iPod Touch used this time when it comes to killing Medusa. Episode 4, I Plunge to My Death. We all know what chapter this is in the book. I think episode 4 will include the chapters of I Plunge to My Death and I Become a Known Fugitive. So episode 4 will be them getting to St. Louis, them going to the Arch, them beating Echidna, Percy having to fight the Chimera, and I think it'll end with Percy jumping out of the arch and into the river. And that sounds like a super short episode, but we know that Rick is adding things here and there that he thinks will enhance the show. He's adding things to the show to advance characters and make them more like dynamic characters. I think he also said that we might cut back and forth between the trio on the quest and cutting back to Camp Half-Blood, so maybe that's a possibility in some of these episodes that feel like there's not a lot of stuff going on. Which, that's what I'm most excited for the show. I'm excited to see what Rick adds to it. Because obviously, as book readers, we know everything that's going to happen in the show. It would be a little, honestly, kind of boring if it was exact word for word, page for page what happens in the book. I like the fact that he's adding things. It gives me something to look forward to, if that makes sense. But yeah, so episode 4 is going to mainly focus around the St. Louis Arch scene and all that stuff. And I think episode 4 can either end with Percy the minute he plunges into the water, or it'll end with them getting back on the train to get out of St. Louis. But I think it would be better if it literally just cuts to black right when he hits water. I think that'd be pretty funny. Next is episode 5, A God Buys Us Cheeseburgers. This will be the first episode where we get to see Ares, which is super exciting. Him being a part of the show is one of my most anticipated aspects of the show. And episode 5 is, I'm pretty sure, just going to be the side quest of them going to Waterland and doing the Tunnel of Love to get Ares' shield and all that stuff. And it'll end with them back at the diner, confronting Ares and being like, you suck. And then them getting onto the truck of zoo animals. It's just going to be a side quest of an episode, which unfortunately will probably get like critiqued badly from people who aren't like book readers. They'll probably watch this episode and be like, this whole episode wasn't necessary, blah, 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 blah. But they just don't get it. They don't get it. Episode 6 is We Take a Zebra to Vegas. The other chapters that I think are going to be in this episode are We Shop for Waterbeds and Annabeth Does Obedience School. So obviously in this episode, they'll be riding to Vegas on the truck with the zebra and all the other zoo animals. But most importantly, episode 6 is going to have the Lotus Hotel scene, which I think everybody is very much looking forward to. We're going to meet Hermes in this episode, which is super exciting. Because again, that's something that's not in the books. That's something that Rick is adding to the show. I'm excited to see what purpose that serves, having Hermes be in the casino. And then once the trio gets out of the Lotus Hotel, they go to the part of the book where they're buying water beds and they're like getting stretched, whatever. And so then I think episode 6 can end again one of two ways. It can either end with them right at the entrance to the underworld, like they don't go in yet, but it ends right when they're about to, or it ends at the end of the chapter, that is Annabeth Does Obedience School. So in episode 6, the trio could go into the underworld. They could encounter Cerberus. Annabeth could be playing fetch with Cerberus, and then it could end right before they meet Hades. So I think episode 6 will either end right before they enter the underworld, or it'll end right before they meet Hades. One of the two. Next is episode 7. We find out the truth, sort of. The other chapters that I think will be in episode 7 are I Battle My Jerk Relative, and maybe I Settle My Tab. I Settle My Tab could go into episode 8, though. I think this episode will be them venturing through the underworld, like on their way to meet Hades. We'll see the whole Grover getting dragged by the flying shoes. We'll meet Hades. We'll have the whole confrontation with him in this episode. The whole realization that Hades didn't actually steal the Master Bolt and that Percy actually has the Master Bolt in his bag. They'll learn that Hades also had his helm stolen. They'll use the pearls to get out of there, all that stuff. I think episode 7 will also have the fight with Ares on the beach, which is very exciting. And it's hard to say when episode 7 will end. It'll either end with Percy defeating Ares and being like, okay, we've got to get back to New York, like, right now. And then being like, we have to fly. And it'll show them flying, and it'll end with Percy getting to the Empire State Building, or it'll end with them still in California on the beach. One of the two. It's kind of hard to say, but that's like the general episode 7. So episode 8, the prophecy comes true. This is going to be the episode where Percy goes to Mount Olympus. Big deal. He's going to meet Zeus and Poseidon. This will be the first episode that Zeus and Poseidon are in. If everything sticks to the books, it could change, but assuming it sticks to what the book is, this will be the first time we see Zeus and Poseidon. Percy will return the Master Bolt. He'll have his whole moment with Poseidon, and then he's going to go home to his mom. His mom's been returned from the underworld. Percy will open the package that's waiting for him at home. He's going to go back to Camp Half-Blood. The summer is going to continue. We'll probably get a little bit of a time jump at the end of the episode, about a month later. So, like, summer's over. Grover is going to go off to find Pan. So we'll say goodbye to him. And then, obviously, the end of the episode will be the end of the season, which will be the end of the book. Episode 8 is going to end with Percy and Luke talking, and Percy discovering that Luke is actually the one that stole everything, and we'll have Luke's whole villain reveal, and that'll be the end of season 1. And then after that, all we can hope for is that it gets renewed for season 2, which is crazy. I really hope it does. I'm pretty sure they're working on season 2, even though it's not renewed yet. Like, they're already writing it so that if and when it does get renewed, they're way ahead of schedule when it comes to writing the show. But yeah, that's a breakdown of the episodes for the Percy Jackson show. It comes out in a little less than a month, and I cannot wait. I'm curious to see which episode of the show is going to be my favorite. I have a feeling episode 2 might be my favorite, just because I love Camp Half-Blood and, like, the vibes of it. And obviously, you know, that's kind of really the only time that we're there at Camp Half-Blood, except until we get to the very end of the show. So I'm just excited for all of it in general. I'm excited to see what Rick adds to the show that we won't even know as book readers. I'm excited to see how non-book readers respond to the show, if they like it, if it works for them. But yeah, that about does it for this video. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed me breaking down the episodes of the show. Make sure you watch all of my other Percy Jackson videos. I have a lot of them. There's a playlist on my channel that you can go and watch. If you like Percy Jackson content, make sure you subscribe to me. I do it quite a lot. Think of me as your go-to Percy Jackson YouTuber, if you will. I'm kidding, but am I? Follow me on all my other socials. I talk about Percy Jackson a lot everywhere. So if this is something you're super interested in, you don't want to miss out on any of that. But that about does it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all next time. Bye.